All right, we are live right now. Soccer to the max on YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook, on Twitter. You can go find us right now. I'm your host, Sean Garmer. Here with me, as always, Mr. Erik Watkins. Well, we are here to talk about the U.S. men's national team in Jamaica, but we're also here to talk about Canada and Mexico.
Woo!
And you have a new leader at the top of the table. We will discuss the standings as this is the last. This is it. No more for 2021. These standings are going to last until the end of January 2022 when this picks up again for the last 6 matches. But Erik, what an interesting night of World Cup qualifiers. We technically had the U.S. and Jamaica go first, then the two in the middle with Panama and El Salvador in Panama, and then Costa Rica at home against Honduras. And then, of course, Mexico go into the frigid area of Edmonton with snow on the ground, 17 degrees at kickoff. This was fire from the minute it started to the minute it ended and everything else in between. Absolute craziness, Erik.
I mean, kudos to the Edmonton crowd. And like you had even texted me. It was this a CFL game or what? I'm like, borderline Snow Classico Part 2. I was waiting for a little bit to come down, but between the elements, the crowd, and really just the team itself, credit to Canada because they started on the front foot. And really, aside from the last like 10, 15 minutes, they never looked back.
No, it's so true. And sorry, I'm having to make this bigger for you guys on the screen so you can actually see it. But what I'm trying to get at here is, first of all, we're coming off that Dos de Cero that we talked about last time.
Mm-hmm.
So Tata Martino had to make some changes. And he went with a 3-5-2 here to be able to cover up some of the pace problems that he knew he was going to have with Alphonso Davies, Tajon Buchanan, and some of the other players. Interesting that Jonathan David does not start for Canada. Instead, they start your old Orlando City guy, Kyle Laren, and he becomes very fruitful as far as what this team needed. And another interesting decision is to start Henry instead of Victoria at the heart of the defense. And that also becomes a very interesting talking point for both Mexico and Canada in this. And of course, so what they decided to do here is, since Tecatito Corona has been the talking point of the town of how he's in terrible form and how you can't trust him right now, you shouldn't play him. He goes with that 3-5-2. He goes with Chucky Lozano and Raul Jimenez up front. He sticks with Gallardo because Gallardo's really the only, like, as far as like a wing back, left wing guy that he can really, go with. Edson Alvarez is right there, sort of like a defensive mid. Hector Herrera there as well. It's kind of hard, even though Herrera didn't have a great game against the United States. Kind of hard to take away a guy that plays at Atletico Madrid that you can count on him. And boy, would they need him in this game. They have to play Jorge Sanchez on the right side. Apparently, Chaca Rodriguez got a death threat after that game against the United States. And then he puts Avelin Pineda in the middle there. And Nestor Araujo comes back into the team after he got the suspension from the U.S. game. And he has to play Dominguez up there as the third center back along with Vasquez. So, of course, Memo Ochoa on goal. So, much different look from Tata Martino's team here to start off. But for me, I think what obviously plays a big role in all of this, Erik, is obviously you're playing on turf.
Mm-hmm.
And you're playing in 17-degree freaking weather.
Mm-hmm.
Combine those two things, And man, that's difficult for a Mexican side that's not used to that. And I mean, think about, a lot of games are played in the US, a lot of games in Mexico. Like Canada is still one of those. They're not making soccer specific stadiums
Oh
everywhere
no.
around the world or whatever. It's very much like the way the US was in the early days of you're still playing in CFL football stadiums, big stadiums. So this was it's a weird thing to see those football lines. Number one, it's been a
And,
while since we've seen
and
those.
and especially for those of you who are not familiar with the CFL, yes, there are two 50-yard lines up north.
Yeah,
I know
you're
it's
like,
weird, but you'll love it. But
yeah,
again, different kind of football. I digress.
different kind of football, exactly. But what the thing was here with this is not just the starting lineup. It's you're still having to deal with a lot of the issues that you had to deal with in the first game against Canada. How do you stop Tajon Buchanan? How do you stop Alfonso Davies? You're dealing with a ball that continually runs now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not one that like stops or you kind of know the rhythm of how you're going to hit the ball, anything. This is a different kind of.
Yeah, you get those extra rolls and even that little carry, and on turf, especially cold turf like that, even with any underheating, you get a little bit of extra bounce to it on any particular kind of pass. That makes it much harder to read as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like it's this was something that was for me, it was how many times in that first, I don't know, 30 minutes, it was just, oh, the pass went too long.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they couldn't connect or whatever. But that just shows you how different this was going to be, a different game this was going to be, how much adjusting they were going to have to do in this. But obviously, I mentioned from the word go, the first minute, the aforementioned Henry absolutely elbows Chucky Lozano on the faces. They're both going up for a ball. No call from the ref, and this set the tone for the rest of the entire evening.
Oh yeah.
No card, nothing. He just goes on, and that's not the first one. He lets Henry commit 3 fouls before he gives him 1 card. And at the 4th foul, you're sitting there going, what does somebody have to do to get a yellow card here?
And you saw as it went on, Mexico was like, we're tired, we're cold, we're frustrated, we got to battle for possession. They really just started. We thought everything against the U.S. was bad. They were just bodying people all up and down the pitch. And I'm like,
yeah,
borderline prison rules in this case.
Yeah. Borderline prison rules. Exactly. And like, if you look at it, 16 fouls to 22.
Mm-hmm.
This was a chippy game. It was an absolutely it was a game that was super tight, super everything. Everything was being contested. There was for me, I didn't think it was a penalty. I feel like he came in with the shoulder, hit him a little bit on the Larea tackle. I don't know how you felt about that.
I mean, real time, I didn't necessarily think so. But at the same time, it's like, if we had VAR, which thankfully we will come January, if we did, I would have warranted a second look. And it's like, all right, even if they see it again, it's no penalty. I'm good with it.
Yeah, it's just the thing beyond that as well. It's just like it continued throughout.
Mm-hmm.
It was Canada pressuring, Mexico trying to recover. They couldn't deal with the pressure still. Then they're fouling to prevent, not really Davies. Davies didn't really they did a good job of kind of keeping Davies out of the mix.
He was at a very quiet night.
But Tajon Buchanan had a big game, being a threat on the other flank. And then, Larea coming forward. And for me, I thought the best player aside from Laren, who got the 2 goals, was Eustachio. Eustachio was on it. He was pressuring every time he possibly could. That's exactly how the first goal happens.
Oh yeah, I
Is
mean, and not even just quite man marking per se, but if you look at his heat map, anywhere, any kind of
right.
build up, anywhere like near where he was on the pitch, win the tackle, clear the pass, do this, do that, regain possession. It's just a magnet for all that.
Yeah, I
Huge,
mean
huge
that's
advantage to him.
exactly what happens on because it had been kind of pretty even. He'd
Mm-hmm.
had some chance, but she didn't really have anything clear cut at all in the first half at all.
Right.
And then right there, right at the end of the half, Eustachio pressures again, takes the ball away, just takes this hopeful shot after he takes it away from Obilin Pineda, and then Memo spills it. Memo Choa spills it, and then Kyle Laren's right there to put it
Tap,
in.
boop.
And Canada gets the 1-0 to go into halftime. Talk about shell shocking you when you go to the half. Credit to Tata Martino. He makes some changes again. But it's like right when he's going to start making some changes, right when Mexico is starting to feel themselves a little bit, get into the game again, started to get more of the ball. Here comes the second goal off a free kick. Eustachio again on the free kick. He had some great free kicks in this game as well. That's another reason why I would say that along with Laren, he was an incredible player for this game. Laren, it goes right to his foot. He puts it over Memo again. That's Memo's weakness. He's not
Oh
great
yeah.
at when he has to decide whether he's going to come in or whether he's going to stay in goal. He isn't the best at that. And he made the decision to not come out. Laren's right there to put the ball in the net, and that's 2-0. And then Mexico are absolutely chasing the game for the rest of the game. And every time it felt like they were going to have an opportunity, somebody from Canada was there to stop them. Now they did have a few. Tecatito came on, and he was great, especially on that right side of whipping in crosses, making himself dangerous. I thought when he put in Sebastian Cordova también, like he was great on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of opened space for the middle to let Hector Herrera do his thing and all that. Raul Jimenez was doing his best to kind of keep balls in play. But, I mean, I still feel like they really missed Chucky, who had to go out at halftime because of, he had, I don't know if it was an orbital bone issue.
Yeah.
He had a big scar above his eye from the elbow.
Right in that orbital
Yeah.
bone region. And I was just like, oh, that was tragic. But then, and I mean, going kind of also back to that second goal, not just the Eustachio kick. You notice with Laren, timing his run absolutely perfect to really meet that ball. And kind of when he got that touch on it, Memo, no pun intended, he just froze.
Yeah,
it was like, there you
exactly.
go.
Well, because at that point he could have tried to come out to stop the ball from hitting his foot, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I think, like you're saying, he froze him, and then he's probably thinking, "Oh well, I might still have a shot at stopping it when he actually kicks it. You can kick it wrong or kick it." So credit to Laren for being there, and then listen to that. The way the crowd reacts after that is incredible, and the way he looks is like. He's just like, yeah, and it's crazy.
They had one of the guys jumping in the snowbank, and I'm just like,
the atmosphere there was insane. Then anytime you had Mexico, you'd hear "Let's go Canada" on the other side. I thought it was a great atmosphere to have that there in Edmonton. Terrific for Canada, and I mean. It really was just and it was the chippiness didn't end in the first half. The chippiness kept going throughout, and man, that ref just did not. That ref did not want to. He did not want to stamp his authority on that game at all. I don't know what his problem was. He would get in the middle of the players and push them back.
Because even for example, after Mexico scored. When Borjan was getting into everybody and it was a whole kerfuffle, literally seconds after right in the net, I'm like, okay, is this going to still be a thing?
Yeah.
What?
No, but he did it throughout.
I know, but it was just.
there was a few times both teams did one of those professional fouls where they cut off the guy way before so he can't even think about starting play. That's an automatic card, and there's nothing, and it's just that's where you stamp your authority in the game and tell these guys hey, I will give you a second yellow if you're not careful. The only one that they had to worry about was Henry. And John Herman was smart and got him out of the game quick. In the 30th minute, he got Vittoria on really quick to make sure that he couldn't, they couldn't get a red card and change this game.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, that's my problem with this is just there was no authority to this at all. He allowed for a lot of this chippiness to be there, which, fair. This is a game between two of the big teams of CONCACAF. They're fighting for that first spot. I get it. You don't want to be the one that causes things to happen, like we're going to talk about in the other game. The other big game we're going to talk about here. But honestly,
you also don't want to be the guy to have a lot of bigger things happen with long-term effects by not doing anything.
It was just terrible, terrible refereeing. The entire game was an absolute just travesty. Honestly, not wanting to call anything, not wanting to make big decisions, not wanting to give cards where they're needed to kind of slow things down. And then you saw that just boil over, keep boiling over until you get to the end, that 89th minute goal. Tecatito, with another cross. It gets headed down. Hector Herrera comes in and blasts it into the goal. And then Canada has to suffer for the last 5 or 6 minutes. Well, the problem is you're sitting there telling people that you got 5 minutes, and then Borjan goes in and wastes time.
Yep.
Going and grabbing the ball to make sure total CONCACAF. This whole game was CONCACAFing at the highest level.
CONCACAF at its finest.
Canada was absolutely time wasting for a lot of this. Adekube, I don't know how many times he went down. Now, granted, that guy ran like crazy.
Oh yeah,
he was one of the best players as well on the pitch for Canada. So not gonna hate on that. Just saying that he was also, I don't know how many times he went down with cramp in that last 5 minutes, especially how they had to fight to decide whether or not they had to get the
stretcher,
La Camilla, on the stretcher, and it's like, man, what are you doing? And the ref sitting there not figuring. He's sitting there looking at his watch, but he's not really adding time.
Yeah, he's looking at his watch and then sometimes signaling for the stretcher and this and that. It's like,
it's just. But you know what? To Canada's credit, they absolutely took it to Mexico. Now, granted, at the end when Mexico's just sitting there pouring things into the box, they kind of just had to let them have possession at that point. And Mexico had that one where it gets chested in, but wow, Borjan right there to block it. They actually, and I was watching on Universal, so Andres Cantor had already started with the goal call, I
was watching there too, and they were like, no.
And they're like, nope, wait, he didn't go. And then, sure enough, on the replay, when they finally showed it, it took them like 2 minutes to show it. It didn't even trickle in. It didn't even get close. He stopped it very good on Borjan on that one. He was huge for a lot of the mats as well. He had some big ones where he was right there at the right time. And, to Canada's credit, they had a terrific game.
Oh, yeah.
Another terrific game plan. This time they got the win. And in Azteca, they almost got the win a few times. They got the draw. And this time they got the win that they totally deserved. Afterwards, it was a big old fight going on, too.
I'm still wondering what Borjan was still mad about, because it looked like he was even getting into it with his own guys.
No, he was trying to stop the other players from going into it because Mexico was goading them.
Oh, yeah, I know they were baiting him. Don't get me wrong, but I saw the other parts of it. I'm like, what? He's still with the what?
No, but again, terrific from Canada.
Oh, yeah.
They're now top of the table, totally earned on this front to go. Like, granted, home field advantage at the ultimate with the snow, with the turf, with everything against Mexico. And credit to the Mexican players for at least trying to come back and make it a game and make it interesting. And that was a heck of an ending. But it just capitalized a game that was absolutely super rough. Probably didn't need to be at the Mexico if the keeper would have had some cojones, But he did it, and it turned into that kind of game. But again, Canada are now still the only unbeaten team in all of CONCACAF qualifying, World Cup qualifying right now. And they definitely went and had a big game against the big rival of the region, and
their first win over Mexico since 2000. Yeah. Think about that. 2000.
That's amazing. Amazing. So, and Canada had been unbeaten at home in World Cup qualifying since 2016. The last team to beat them, Mexico. So, again, another record that had stood there. John Herdman twice coming up trumps against Tata Martino. So not only is Tata Martino having a problem with Greg Berhalter, he has a problem with John Herdman as well. So yeah, I mean, but now, this is great for Canada. You know what you've been doing. Gutsy call to not start Jonathan David and to start Kyle Larin. Everything's kind of going right for Canada right now. I mean, they got a little bit of luck on the Costa Rica thing, maybe that could have ended up in a draw, but that's sometimes when things are going right for you, that's what happens. Mexico, man, Tata Martino's safe in his job. He's getting paid too much money for them to fire him. They do have a big break. If it was going to happen, this would be the time. You have time to go hire a manager, all that. Now you don't have another camp for Mexico. It's not like the U.S. where they have another camp. They actually technically have a friendly before the year ends against Bosnia and Herzegovina and all that. But that's going to be mostly MLS players. But still, you're Tata Martino. You don't have another camp, right? This is it until March, basically, or until not March,
into January. Yeah, because
sometime in January you're going to have the camp, right?
Yeah,
but still. The point here is there is a little bit of time for them to figure it out. But I just don't think, especially with the way Mexico tried to come back in that game, I think it's more about assessing the squad and really looking at it and saying, okay, I need to start looking elsewhere for some of these positions where I don't have somebody I can depend on.
Yeah, because at this point, and we will talk about the standings after we go around with a few other matches. Is it as bad as it was in 2014 around at this point?
No.
But if minor tweaks don't get made, it could start to be. And we all know that chaos, those last couple rounds of qualifying in 2014 on the Mexico side. I don't think they want to go through that again.
No. Look, they got way more points than they had that cycle where they almost didn't qualify and had to go to the repechaje against New Zealand. That they're nowhere near that here.
Yeah.
So you don't have to necessarily, freak out about that. But let's look at, since we're on Mexico, for one, they need to come up. Look at some of those players that were in the Olympic team, perhaps, or look at some of the players like a Diego Lainez that was in there for the Nations League game. And regardless of whether he's playing for Betis or not, you need to call him in. You need to get some fresher legs, not totally inexperienced fresher legs, but some guys that have had experience, and get them in here to kind of make some of these players understand, hey, you're not guaranteed a spot here. You blacklisted some guys like Chicharito and Carlos Salcedo and some other guys. Like, do you need to maybe consider, do I need to have these guys blasted? Could they really help us right now? So even though you have this great, terrific front line, they haven't produced for you.
No.
Right now. So, like, Chicharito is scoring goals, albeit now he's not going to be playing for a while. Is that something you might need to consider? Like, what's more important? qualifying for a World Cup or trying to show that I'm big and bad at this point.
Exactly.
Right?
Is
So
your pride really worth what was the equivalent that they threw around back then? Maybe $600 million? Is it worth that much? To me, it wouldn't be.
yeah, because your salary means nothing. Your whatever you're doing means nothing if this team, Mexico, with all these La Estrellas, that it has, doesn't make the freaking World Cup. So let's look at this, and you guys, I'm gonna try to make this bigger here. Sorry, sometimes it looks big on my screen, but then I forget that. Oh, I can't even make it any bigger, apparently. So anyway, I know this is small for the people looking at this. I apologize. I can see that's about the closest I can get to zooming in, unless I just take us off completely. There you go. But okay, so let's look at this here. The first game that they have against Jamaica away. You can't get overconfident now because
nope.
We're going to talk about what happened to the U.S. here. If a certain Michail Antonio and Leon Bailey are both playing in that game, that is a different Jamaica side than the one that we've seen previously or in the Gold Cup or whatever. That is not somebody you want to mess with. So let's see. And then I don't know if you're seeing, I'm circling right here. This Costa Rica Panama that's also happening on that same fixture date.
Yep.
This is super important as to how much this game right here means. Because if Costa Rica could get a point or even get 3 points at home against Panama, they're back in business here. They're back in business.
Oh.
And then you're going into this game at the Azteca, wherever the heck they're going to play, because, again, they've been talking about maybe we don't need to play all over against at the Azteca. Because, let's be honest, it's starting to become it's not this, like, fortress that it used to be.
The mystique has long been lifted at the Azteca. So you're looking at this, and that Canada-USA match is also going to be a lot spicier.
Yeah. And then not only that, look, this is your other game right here.
Oh,
Mexico, Panama, right here. So none of this is a given. None of this is guaranteed for you that you're going to come in and, okay, we're going to get all these points, right? Because you have to have certain things go your way, and that may not go your way because, again, here's what Panama's doing at the next fixture. When you're playing Costa Rica, here's what they're doing, right? They're playing Jamaica at home, where Panama has been absolutely unbeatable. That's more points for Panama, which I'm going to get into that. Since those two games happen, let's just go ahead and get into them before we get into the U.S. Panama won against El Salvador. El Salvador scored within the first 15 seconds.
Oof.
At the beginning of the game. Literally, they flipped the whistle sounded. He takes a shot. It goes in. It rebounds and goes in. Okay? So Panama has to kind of fight back after that. It actually goes 1-0 to the end of the half. But right at the beginning, 49th minute, bam, bam, one after the other. Waterman with a header off a cross, and then Gondola with another header off a cross. 49th to 51st minute, get the lead, and El Salvador gets nothing the rest of the second half. So Panama does it again, just like they did to Honduras, where they absolutely shell-shock their opponent, and then they're able to carry that to victory, and especially at home, again, where they have been tremendous. So Panama now 14 points right there, tied with Mexico. Mexico's leading on goal difference. So the top of the table is super tight right now, Erik. It's super tight.
It's 2 points.
Yep.
First
16, 15, 14, 14. That's super tight right there. And then, of course, Costa Rica, I just talked about them, how they've been able to get the 9 points. lowly Honduras here. I feel bad for them. Costa Rica were able to get they got the first goal, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, they got the first goal. Oscar Duarte off a corner. And then Kyoto comes in about the 34th minute, gets the Honduras goal that ties it. And then at the death, at the 94th minute, after Honduras had just missed an opportunity, Gerson Torres, who'd come on as a sub, his first game for Costa Rica, his first goal for Costa Rica, off a header that gets headed down to him by Godoy, and that's it. Costa Rica gets the 2 points. They'd actually put on all the old guys at that point. Brian Reeves, so Voorhees, Kendall Watson, everybody have been going on to try to get something going for them. And lo and behold, it's one of the younger guys that actually does it for Costa Rica. So kudos to them here. But let's get into it. It's the game I think most people that are probably listening actually care about more than anything of the other ones that we've talked about here. It is, of course, the U.S. men's national team going to the office, going to Kingston. I still want to know why it's called the office. Like, is it just like,
well,
that's
for the Reggae Boyz, that's where they do their work. They go to the office. It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me.
I guess it. Not that it doesn't make sense. I'm just whatever. But so there were some changes that needed to be made here for Greg Berhalter. So let's talk about the 2 changes that he makes here. And some of the ones that he keeps in, if we're going to look at this lineup here. So he keeps everybody but the 2 that were suspended. So Chris Richards comes in for Miles Robinson. That was expected. That's the one we said was going to happen. And then Gianluca Busio is chosen above Kelvin Costa or someone else in that midfield to kind of take the McKinney spot. Now, Busio is not the same player as McKinney, and that was very much evident throughout this game. And I think that actually really hurt the U.S. here of not having that guy that will just follow up a play and be there when you need him. Busio is more of a hands-off kind of guy. He's more of a try to get involved in the play, try to make something happen, but not in the same way. It's more of like, okay, you give him the ball and he's gonna create, right? But it's more of like I'm gonna give you a pass. I'm gonna he gets called the American Pirlo, and that is kind of his function, sort of. So I think that was sort of hurting. And then that entire line here that you have between Aronson, Busio, and Robinson, I think this is it's going to be a telling thing for this game here, because the other line that you have, Weah, Musa, Yedlin, for the exception of maybe Yedlin going forward, those are more of your better players here. And then, of course, you still have Pepe starting in front of goal, because you don't really have another number 9 here as far as, the U.S. goes. Now, for Jamaica, a certain Michail Antonio did start this game, and boy, was he super important, and was it evident that Jamaica really miss him when he is not playing, because before so here's I guess what happens if for some reason you are listening to this or watching this and don't remember a lot about the game. So the U.S. comes out on fire. They come out very much like the Mexico game. They're pressuring. They're doing everything. Tim Weah gets a goal in the 10th minute. It comes off a beautiful 1-2 with Ricardo Pepi, and he goes by his man in the box. It looks like he's actually gonna. He's not gonna be able to get to it, but he does, and he hits it over Andre Blake. then it kind of keeps going that way. You know, they're controlling possession, whatever, and then Michail Antonio
The
happens.
howler.
Michail Antonio happens with not the howler, the impressive play by Michail Antonio, just like the El Salvador game that I told you about on the last show, Eric. He takes the ball pretty much in midfield, takes it by himself, is able to get. Now, I don't know why Walker Zimmerman pulls off here because this is your guy. This is the one you're supposed to be covering. So then Tyler Adams takes over in defending. Tyler Adams is one of your best defenders that you have, but he allows for Michail Antonio to cut in. That gives him enough space for him to hit that nasty shot that he hits. Now, to be fair, I think this is where you lose it a bit with Zach Steffen because Zach Steffen hasn't been playing regularly. And I don't think he was, I don't know whether he didn't see it or what happened.
It looked almost like he reacted a bit late.
Yeah, he got caught flat-footed and he reacted late. And so you see it when he stretches out. Oh, it looks like he's almost going to get there, but he doesn't get there.
Nope.
And that ball goes in that. Again, credit to Antonio for just taking that shot, right? And hitting it in there, and he hit it really good, and it goes in, and it's 1-1. And after that, the United States men's national team lost it. I don't know what happened here. Confidence just went out the window. But they were not the same team after that.
They really weren't. And it's like, again, aside from Awea and Musa, it's almost, and I almost don't want to use this word, but it's almost like they were scared. Because I can't even say it because I originally thought, and we talked about it, yeah, maybe there was that hangover after the Dos a 0, but it seemed it's like they were just scared because then there was so much disconnect. You couldn't get multiple passes together. When you try to string something together, then in the final third, it imploded. And it's like,
because the dumb thing was that Jamaica, if it wasn't Michail Antonio or Leon Bailey, they'd lose the ball.
Mm-hmm.
None of their other guys could really keep possession at all for them. But it was just, like you said, it was the U.S. couldn't put 2 and 2 together if it wasn't for Yunus Musa or Tim Weah trying to make something happen. Pepe was kind of, especially in the first half, he was very involved, but in the second half, he kind of disappeared. But I think that's more of it because he didn't get any service.
Yeah.
And it's weird because Busio disappeared entirely. He was non-existent for the first half. But then in the second half, he kind of started becoming more involved in the play. But then again, it's somebody that absolutely let the team down, I feel like, is Anthony Robinson. Anthony Robinson had an absolutely terrible game. He kind of had an okay game against Mexico. You started to see some of that with Mexico. He was missing some chances or whatever. But that was okay because he had other guys kind of also playing well and covering, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Anthony Robinson couldn't make a pass. When he would get a pass back to him, he would lose it. He'd had the ball go out of bounds. He'd misplay it. He is the person to blame for the chance in the 52nd minute that Cordoba Reed can't finish. He has it right in front of goal. Robinson mishits it, trying to cover for Zach Steffen, and Cordoba Reed just absolutely somehow right in front of goal freaking sends it over. And that was Jamaica in a nutshell, honestly, for that entire game of either they couldn't hit something or they couldn't keep possession.
No, and it's just like with the U.S., the few chances they did create, it's just whiff.
Yeah, whiff, exactly. And like that's the thing too, is just if you look at it, which let me see what you guys are looking at here, because okay, it looks fine. So U.S. outpossesses Jamaica, but you know, if you look at this number here, it doesn't matter because Jamaica's strategy was we're gonna out physical you. We're gonna come in and drop you.
Or make you fly in the air in the case of Tyler Adams.
Or Brandon Aronson as well. I don't know why neither one of those were cards because that was ridiculous too. I don't know what the referee was thinking there. Like both of those were nasty tackles. Like
they're nasty. They were late, no contact with the ball.
And if they don't jump out of those could have been worse.
Yeah.
So
at the very least, yellows all day.
Definitely. And like that's the thing is the ref is not, controlling the game at that point either. And then we get to the biggest play of the game where he does make a decision. In the 84th minute, Jamaica gets a corner. And Damian Lowe is there. He hits it into the net. Goal Jamaica. Jamaica is winning 2-1 at this point. In the 84th minute, you'd think, oh man, wow, Jamaica's going to pull the upset here. But they call a foul on Damian Lowe, and Walker Zimmerman, to his credit, Walker Zimmerman does a little bit of acting.
That teeny bit, not quite Oscar worthy.
To try to make it seem like Damian Lowe used his forearm to, push up against him. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the replay, he doesn't. He just uses it. Yeah.
Because I was looking at the replay and they were even saying, "Oh yeah, it's a foul on number 17." I'm like, for what?
No, it's no. Well, they were saying no, it wasn't a foul.
Mm-hmm.
On Universal.
Yeah, but that's what I was like saying the same thing, and it was like, what did they call the foul on? I was confused myself.
If you're Jamaica, I would feel absolutely
shafted.
Yeah, absolutely shafted, absolutely upset at the fact that you had an opportunity to be beating the U.S. at home 2-1 where you needed points. You absolutely needed points because you're seeing the difference. You're now behind Costa Rica where you could have been tied with them at 9 points. And that makes a huge difference because you could still drop that game to Mexico and still be in with a chance, depending on what happens to Panama, to get that playoff spot. So,
right.
Like, that is a big deal. And that's a part where the referee misses it, where, if you go back and you listen to some the referees that they had, apparently that wouldn't have been something that was looked at by VAR, supposedly. But once he makes the decision that it's not a goal, right?
Right.
They would have not really overturned it, probably. Same thing if he would have given the goal, VAR would not have overturned it and made it not a goal. So that's the problem here, is that you really cost Jamaica, and the U.S. got gifted a draw here when they really should have been under fire to have to make something happen in that last 6 to 9 minutes that they would have had. Now, to be fair, Christian Pulisic did come on a little bit earlier than last time, but he was getting hacked. As soon as he touched the ball, he was getting hacked. No shade to Jamaica there, because I would make sure that he couldn't do that either to me,
and especially after the game against Mexico and the extra savage in the shirt too that I mentioned on Twitter. It's like, oh, no. You're not doing that here. Nope.
I feel like he may have waited a little bit too long to bring on Jesus Ferreira, because in the second half, Ricardo Pepi was really not getting any kind of service.
Mm-mm.
Now, I don't know that really would have changed if Ferreira's going to get service if he's not getting it at that point, but maybe you make a difference, because honestly, I was very afraid that he would do exactly what he did and bring on Kellen Acosta, because Kellen Acosta, he's gonna get physical, but he just doesn't combine well with Tyler Adams. I don't know what it is. Because they both kind of play this similar position or whatever, but it's like they just don't work well together.
No, and even
And
then, I was a little bit skittish as well when Areola came on because I was like, I had a feeling it would happen because it's against Jamaica, but it's like, what would you really need him
yeah,
for
but
in
I
this?
mean,
It's
like at
like,
that point, other than bringing on like Roldan, I don't really know that you had anybody that was gonna make much of it. Polarioli at that point is the only guy that can run,
mm-hmm,
that can make a difference,
mm-hmm.
aside from Pulisic, where I think it's like I think he had to bring Ariola on. He didn't have a choice, So outside of and the thing is, like Reggie Cannon hasn't been playing regularly, so I couldn't say, oh well, you
Right.
could have brought him on instead of Yedlin, and maybe you get something going on the right side there. But I think for me, the biggest problem was taking off both Musa and Weah. Like, leave one of them on. I
Mm-hmm.
get it that maybe he didn't want to take off Aronson twice in 2 games or whatever. He wanted to give Aronson a shot to see if he could redeem himself or whatnot.
And especially Whale was still looking somewhat
But
dangerous.
Weah was again the most dangerous player for
Yeah.
the U.S. in that game, and you take him off. And it would have been good to be able to see like Weah and Pulisic be able to combine with each other with Pepe or with Ferrer or whichever one. And instead you leave in Aronson and just switch him over to the right side. And I feel like that really didn't help you at all.
Mm-mm.
When Weah is confident, he's feeling it, he's wanting to take on players. Same thing with Musa. Like, you know, at that point, maybe you take off Busio for Acosta and left Musa in. You know, it just it that's one of those things. Like, I think this is where the one time where he got the second half wrong. But I don't know that necessarily they would have really made that much of a difference. It just felt to me like the U.S. this wasn't going to be their day.
Nope.
And the way that they couldn't connect anything, the way Anthony Robinson was just absolutely getting it wrong on the left side, the way on the right they couldn't really do much once he took both of them out. Like it was like you said. I don't know that they were scared,
Mm-hmm.
but it was more of like, okay, let's just try not to let something go in. And to be fair to Walker Zimmerman, who again I thought had a good game, he was still very active in getting all the headers, and having to fight with Michail Antonio is no easy task. I thought Chris Richards was okay filling in for Miles Robinson, but it was just like I thought like the backs let him down in this game, and then just sometimes Zach Steffen was not distributing the confidence and everything else that he showed in that Mexico game. He didn't have that here. This whole team felt like they were on a come down from that game.
Yep.
And I think this is the thing we've got to talk about, Eric. We've got to talk about this because, let's get into the standings. I know we've talked about all the games. So here are your standings for CONCACAF for what they look like right now. I'm going to try to, again, make this bigger so people can see. Right there. Okay. So Honduras is basically
They're still winless.
they're pretty much almost eliminated at this point. El Salvador has tried and tried, and I really feel like, man, God bless them. I really wanted to root for El Salvador as being that fourth team to really make it and make a splash and whatever, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to be them. I think the teams that you see 1 through 6 are going to be the team. Now, I'm not saying El Salvador, Honduras won't play spoiler at some point
Right.
when you really need these teams really need to get points. But these 6 teams, I feel like those are the teams you're going to see fighting. And I still think Jamaica has, if Antonio can stay fit and still stay in that run of form that he's been on, he could will them to that 4th spot, I feel like, still. And I feel like that was a big key in that game too, of the star showed up for Jamaica. The stars of the U.S. did not show up, and they really missed Weston McKinney a lot because they didn't have that guy that man, that other guy that wins balls, the other guy that he'll come into the box and he'll try to make something happen. Or they just didn't have that. Buscio's not that kind of player, so they were missing that for this game. But so as we talked about, Canada number 1 here, 16, USA 15, Mexico, Panama at 14. So this is your top half right here. These are the top 3 go to the World Cup automatically. Here's your repechaje, your playoff here. But again, look at this right here, goal difference.
Mm-hmm.
Mexico, Panama, it's super close. Between Mexico being all the way in 4th, and technically at it ended today, they would be going through, but it doesn't end today. So, that's your standings. But this is the number one thing I think we need to talk about with the U.S. because it's been a pattern. It's been a thing for the entirety of the World Cup qualifying so far. It's been the U.S.'s inability, especially when they're coming off a home game, to go away and play anything like they play at home. That's not good, Eric.
No, and when you're in a position, and I'm giving credit to Jamaica, they have really shown, even for all the time we were thinking originally during this cycle that they were going to be pushovers, they're not. So going in with those expectations, but you would at least think, pull out something solid. You have a more than reasonable shot at a win, which the U.S. for long stretches did, but nothing. And again, when you have big home matches, crowd like this and that, you've got to have at least some of that energy go with you. It's like, hey, we won. Let's go do it again. Let's go ahead, put it all out there.
But here's the thing that's even more important in all of this is your remaining matches, 4 of them are away from home.
Yep.
And 3 of them are against contenders, with one of them being no, they're all okay. So your away games that you have right now left on the schedule is you have USA Canada. That's a huge game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, depending on what they do over here against El Salvador at home, which you would expect that El Salvador at home, you should be able to get the 3 points.
Yep.
But this is an El Salvador that at this point now they have to start getting points. So you're going to get the best El Salvador you could possibly get, you would think, at that point. But Canada, U.S., that's your away game for that window. Then you have another team here where you think that you get the 3 points, considering where Honduras are and where they could be they could be eliminated completely, depending on what happens in these games that they have. Canada, they're both at home against Canada and El Salvador. Let's see what kind of Honduras team you have at that point, right? Because you could also have a Honduras team that somehow got 6 points out of these 2 games, and then they're sitting there at 9 by the time they play the U.S. So who knows? Let's see, right? But again, let's look at this. Your other window. Go into the Azteca. You got Panama at home, which, depending on, let's see, Panama might have enough points to be qualified at that point. Who knows what this game means at this point? But this is your last home game. It's against Panama. That's still a formidable team. This is a team that's fighting with you for first, the top spot. And then we don't know what Costa Rica is going to be at when you have this final home game against here. So now, obviously, U.S. not be qualified at this point, so it doesn't matter, right? But still,
in theory, yes. I have said many a times, you can't just go say, "Oh, in theory," leaving it down to this and repeating those bars, because even with all of this and with these expected results, I'm looking at this. Okay, El Salvador, fine. Like I say, you get the 3 points. Honduras, I can reasonably say, even if they get those wins, again at home, 3 points. You're maybe, if you're lucky, looking at 1 up in Canada, even with this.
Yeah.
And I'm not even counting that 1. I think it would be
Yeah.
great
What if
to
you
get a draw,
lose?
but yeah, you could easily lose. Then what?
Yeah. But I mean, that away form needs to get fixed because,
Mhm.
and I go back to this, and I always thought, I hate to, nobody wants to bring up this guy, but Jurgen Klinsmann was right in saying you need to have more games away from the United States.
Yep.
You need to go to Europe. You need to go to some other places. Go to these bad pitches in these CONCACAF countries, or go to the bad pitches in the South American countries. Play them there. Don't bring them to the United States. Play them there to get that experience,
Yeah,
especially
because
for this. Yeah.
you're always going to have these teams who are going to love to come to the U.S. Either
Right.
such better conditions or fans or everything. It's going to be great. But how does that really help you? If you
It
go
doesn't.
there, you get those extra scrapes and scars and toughen up. And all right, we've dealt with this here. We've dealt with this here. We know how to do this. We've got to account for this.
Yeah, I mean, and because that pitch, the way it is in Jamaica, where it looked bad, right? That affects the way you play.
Yep.
And if you're used to that, you can have more experience there, and you know that, right? So obviously, CONCACAF, the Nations League Gold Cup, you can't do anything about that, right? So they can't really do anything about the games that they've already played, whatever. But when you get past this World Cup qualifying, let's hope that you make it. That year running up to it, before you get to Qatar, you better schedule friendlies where you're not just playing all of them in the United States. Play them in other places.
Absolutely.
So you can get something of a semblance to not playing at home in the comforts.
Yeah, if I'm U.S. soccer, I take that year if everything's settled and you're counting down towards Thanksgiving in Qatar. It's like, all right, what matches do we know we have to play at home or anything leading up to that? Anything else? Have pitch, will travel.
Exactly.
Any and all comers. You want us, you got us. Let's go.
Yeah, even a neutral site. Let's go there.
Exactly.
Just to go somewhere besides the U.S. Let's go there. But anyway, getting out that. But this is something that's gotta. Like,
really does.
Honestly, this game against Canada to me is big. Like, Canada has a game. It's obviously away from home. It's in Honduras, right? Like, we've seen Canada struggle away from Canada. They've also struggled at home, honestly. But Canada needs to get a result here, but let's say they don't.
Yeah.
Let's say they don't. Let's say they get a draw, or maybe Honduras wins or something like that.
Then
let's
you're
say the
going to
U.S.
be facing a team that's even hungrier.
Right. Let's say the U.S. gets that win against El Salvador, right? They're coming off that high again.
Yep.
Where, oh my God, they played great and all this stuff, and everybody's excited. This game's big here. You can't just, I forgot I'm not showing the standings. That game is big against Canada. That's not a game that you should be taking lightly and saying, well, whatever, we'll just get like what we just saw with Mexico. I mean, that makes a difference because you should want to do well against your rivals,
and even if you're not going to get like the insanely cold conditions, say they play that in Vancouver, whatever.
Yeah.
That's all the more reason it's still going to be extra loud because you're going to be in a dome. You're going to have most likely even more fans because it's indoors in January in Canada. So you're going to be dealing with a potentially even more raucous environment.
Yeah, that's very true.
Mm-hmm.
And like I feel like I don't know that we're gonna really see much of a difference in what we're seeing right now. I really don't. I think we're gonna see a lot of this. We're gonna see the teams that are already doing well continue to do well.
Yeah.
I do think that we may see Costa Rica, Jamaica really make a run and close that gap and get in and be formidable on that final window. I
Yeah.
don't think we're. Yeah, I mean, I hope so because it'd be interesting,
yeah. I mean,
right?
if anything, this is going to be for Jamaica, Costa Rica, really these make or break. I would even say the entire window. I'd say those first matches,
Yeah,
the 27th, it's like if you can get results there,
yeah.
you're going to carry those through the rest
Jamaica
of the
has a
window.
really hard win against Mexico because this is a Mexico that's going to be hungry.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They're going to be wanting to show, hey, man, we can't just be sneaking by. We need to go in here and we need to like take Jamaica down, like 2-0,
Yeah,
3-0,
absolutely.
whatever. And this is a Panama team that also, even though they're away from home, like they don't want to be losing points because they want to try to get in auto qualification, right? Because you don't know who you're going to face in that playoff. That's not a guarantee. The European teams are about to have to go through that. We're going to have another show tomorrow, Thursday morning, basically. Well, yeah, Thursday morning for you guys. But we're going to talk about all the other World Cup qualification stuff that's happened in this window because obviously they take a break as well till January. And that some of these teams like Italy that now has to go to the playoff again, you don't know who you're going to face.
Nope.
You may be seen as a favorite, but you don't know who you're facing. So
yeah, they've got like the ideal who's going to be seeded and whatnot, but we don't know those tournaments yet.
Yeah, we don't. So that's the interesting thing, and like we'll see what happens there. But again, like these games here are all going to be big. Like Costa Rica again having to face Mexico here.
Yeah.
What kind of Mexico are you going to get?
Yeah, and that's why I say circle that date if you're these teams, January 27th. By
and
the
even
time
the even bigger one.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I say, like, for those in particular, you're really starting the January window out of the gate, the 27th, with Costa Rica, Panama, Jamaica, Mexico, as you mentioned. If you're those two teams, if you can get results that day, you can have something to carry through that window. For Jamaica, you can carry that to the match against Panama.
Yeah.
Costa Rica, you can carry that into the Azteca. All hell could break loose, but you can at least do something. But if you don't, you're looking at yourselves in the mirror, and it's like, wow. Looking at the gap going into those matches in the 30th, you're not done by any means because you would still have 5 left. But you're looking and realistically and saying, hey, what's really left?
So especially if these teams all get the 3 points, right? And you're making that ceiling at the top even higher for you.
Yep.
That makes it even much more difficult for you to catch them.
Yeah. So then by the time you get to those matches, the end of the window in February, like we've said, your top 4 and bottom 4 may already be set.
Exactly, especially because they play each other.
Yeah.
On the second there. So
that's that. And
yeah, and it may just be a four team race for who's gonna fit into what spot, right? And then that again makes these games for the U.S. all that important because you can't drop any points because you don't know what these other teams are gonna do. So this is why again that away form for the U.S. is imperative that they need to figure this out. They need to figure out whatever the heck it is that makes it to where they have these letdowns every time they go from playing a home game to an away game. Yes, I get it. It's Mexico. Yes, I get it. It's Dos Cero. Yes, I get it. Like, that was a huge game. But, man, like, to just get deflated after Michail Antonio ties it up.
And look at how early that was.
Yeah. And again, like, yeah, you could say Jamaica grew into the game, but they were still having tremendous problems with keeping the ball and like, but it's almost like they thought, oh, we're the U.S. We'll just score a goal at some point, and then that'll be enough.
You know what that kind of reminded me of? And I'm going to bring this up again. Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
Granted, the stakes were entirely different that night at Bolton Stadium, but
I mean, we didn't have to necessarily. It wasn't this. I think it would have been a bigger deal if we lost,
right?
Which we should have. We should have because that goal should have stood. That's so unfair to Jamaica. But granted, still by the letter of what's out there, you drew. And that's really what you were expecting out of this window, right? Except you were expecting that to be Mexico, not Jamaica. But
yeah,
still,
you were thinking the other way around.
Right. You were expecting that to be, hey, we're going to go and get 3 points in Jamaica because we couldn't get the 3 points at home against Mexico, but that's Mexico. It's expected, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, to see that team get deflated that much to where they almost lost, that's a big deal. And, like, so what Canada did is what you should have done, right? You should have gone in with the intention of, we want to be top of the table heading into this nice break that we have.
Yeah, top of the table going into the new year.
And I felt like Canada wanted that more. Obviously, it was a game that they had to get up. They wanted to get up for and playing against Mexico, and especially feeling like they had left something on the table in the Azteca, so they had a lot more to get up for and trying to beat Mexico and everything. But still, like, think about that. Think about all the World Cups that Canada hasn't been to, and to like be able to go into this break with all this confidence and be able to say, man, we're top of the table now.
Mm-hmm.
How many years have we just been nothing in CONCACAF, and now look where we're at. So
exactly, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Last time that they even ended top of the table in CONCACAF, which different format and all of that, they were CONCACAF champions, got the trophy and everything when they qualified for the World Cup in '86.
Yeah. That's it.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, exactly. Throwing it out there. But yeah, I mean, it's a really cool thing to see for Canada fans. But again, the U.S. should have been better in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Look, you're disappointed, but it's not the end of the world. Obviously, you're still there in second. You're still doing great things. You still got that win against Mexico. Like, it's all that. But I really just do not want to see them. I really hope that the way that Canada felt playing against Mexico is the way you're going to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Where Canada went into your house and got a draw, and they really could have beat you. Now it's time to go into their house.
Yeah.
And for you to feel the same and really want to fight.
And with Canada, they got the draw here qualifying. They've already beaten us on our solo four recently. We're getting into that Nations League. They're not scared anymore.
Right.
And if they're not scared, you should be.
Yeah. But not should be to the point where you don't go out there and
I
give
get
them hell. But
yeah, but it's like, hey, they're not afraid to play us anymore. We got to show them who we still are.
Exactly. But either way, let's wrap it up here. Again, went over the standings. We went over. What do you think? Do you think it's just going to be the same top four that we've already have right now? Do you think there's going to be a Jamaica, Costa Rica, maybe El Salvador that sneaks in there and makes it interesting? How do you feel about this U.S. game? Let us know on Twitter at Squid Sporthead, at WTM Sean, You go listen to us wherever we have the podcast. We are there. You can watch us here on YouTube right now, like we're on live right now, or on Twitch, or on the Facebook page. You can go join that, or go check us out on Last Word on Soccer as well. Thank you for listening to us over there. We appreciate that. Anybody that may be listening for the first time, with our coverage of the Mexico game. Appreciate that. Hopefully, you'll continue to be listening as we keep going throughout the season. Again, we have a regular show. Normally, it's on Sundays. Right now, we're kind of bouncing around because of the World Cup qualifying and all of that. But we will have another show tomorrow that kind of focuses more on the other World Cup qualifying that's going on in other places besides CONCACAF. And also, we'll be talking about some NWSL playoffs and then other things as well. So you'll get a bit more of our regular show there too. So for Eric, for myself, thank you everybody for listening, for watching. We'll see you later.
Peace.